Let's hear from our audience.
Hi, Chani. Thank you so much for your incredible app and podcast. I have learned so much, in my own journey of studying astrology. So I absolutely love your work. So you have talked about stelliums before and what they mean and what it means for people who have stelliums in their chart. What about if we flip it the other way? So people who don't have a stellium in their chart, what does that mean for them? What I've noticed sometimes it can bring either great balance to their chart or sometimes a lack of focus in a specific area. So, how can people who don't have stelliums in their chart kind of identify the most important points? Thank you.
Okay, I love this question because the sky is always moving and changing. And so, yes, sometimes there's a whole group, a whole cluster of planets in a certain sign. And then we know that that sign and its style is going to really dominate that person's life. And then we also know that area of the chart, the house that has all those planets in it, that's also going to really dominate somebody's life. And so when there are more spread out planets in a chart, that means that we have to fine tune our way of going into the chart. And so we want to be very specific about what planet rules the ascendant, where is it, what other planets is it talking to, where's the sun, where's the moon. Those three things, that architecture, we want to definitely lay claim to. Now, if you start to notice who speaks to those three planets, the ruler of the ascendant, the sun, and the moon, either all the planets will start to get wrapped into those three, or there'll be some outliers. And then you'll know, like, oh, Venus doesn't talk to any of those three planets, so Venus isn't that integrated into the rest of the chart. What does that mean for that person and their relationships, or their relationship to art or creativity or beauty? There's that kind of thing. And sometimes you'll notice, like, oh, if I look at even just the ruler of the ascendant, that planet's actually in conversation with every other planet in the chart. So every other planet in the chart is actually expressing itself through the ruler of the ascendant, or the ruler of the ascendant is being steered and it's being influenced by all these other planets. So sometimes you'll find that. And so it'll be like, okay, well, they're not all in one sign or one house, but they're all speaking to this one planet. And this planet is so important because it's literally steering the direction of this person's life. Or if things aren't that connected and there's not that much speaking to the ruler of the ascendant or the sun or the moon, then I'll start to be like, okay, what planet is angular? What planet is in the first, fourth, seventh, or 10th house? Those planets are going to be lifted up in terms of importance because those are angular planets and those are really energized and they're going to be very apparent in that person's life. That is maybe secondary to what another thing that I look at. Actually, the first thing I look at is what planets are in their own domicile, what planets are in their own sign, what planets are exalted in the sign they do really well in, what planets are in their fall or in their exile or detriment in the signs that they don't do well in. And I find like any of those four categories really stick out. So if a planet is in the sign of its detriment or fall, meaning it struggles there, I find that those planets become really pronounced because they're a bit of a pain in the ass. And so they give the person a real run for their money. And then if planets are in their domicile, in their own sign, or in their exaltation, those planets are going to help that person tremendously. So that's where they can go for some ease. That's where they can go to like rest. That's where they can go and be like, okay, when all else fails, I know this thing will be successful. And then I also want to see about mutual reception. So if, say, Mars is in Capricorn and Saturn is in Scorpio, then Saturn is in Mars's sign and Mars is in Saturn's sign, and they form a sextile because those signs are forming sext. That is an amazing connection. Or say, I just saw this in a friend's chart the other day, that Venus is in Aquarius and Saturn is in Libra. then those are in each other's signs, and they also form a trine because they're both air signs. And so that means that that person's ability to create art, the form and the structure, Saturn, and the beauty and the harmony and the sweetness and the attractiveness, Venus, those are in reception. And that is an artist. That's a signature of somebody who's like an artist, an architect, someone who can really create something that people will love, or something that is profoundly meaningful because of the architecture it has and because of the beauty that it holds. The Saturn Mars that I mentioned before that is like, this person is extra determined and really good at planning and strategizing and getting to the goal and going deep and being thorough and working hard and being like steady as a rock. And I'm talking about the signs that everything is in, and I'm also talking about the relationship there. So I would say that. I'd say look for planets in their own sign or in their exaltation. Those are special moments of like, okay, this is going to be helpful. Look for planets that are in their detriment and fall, because those are going to be agitating and a real problem for the person, but that's what will help the person work and move into transformations and actually do something that's akin to a kind of self-realization, because it's like a real thorn in your side. And then also looking for planets in mutual reception in each other's signs, especially when they make an aspect to one another. And then those examples that I gave, also Saturn is exalted in Libra and Mars is exalted in Capricorn. So those were special examples that I also gave. But you could have like Mercury in Cancer and the moon in Virgo, and those would be in a sextile and also mutual reception. And those are not exalted, but those would also be really helpful. So once you span all of those things and kind of go through the list, where are the planets angular? Are any planets angular? Domicile, exaltation, detriment, fall, and then mutual reception. Then you'll be like, oh, okay. These planets really stand out. These ones stand out in helpful ways. These ones stand out in not so helpful ways. And this is where things can really flow and be positive. Who's supporting the ruler of the ascendant? Who's supporting the sun and the moon? And you'll kind of have like a way into the chart that'll be quite helpful and clarifying, I think. I hope. Let me know.